Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, we head back out to Bonsai Acres. So for this specific trip, I had to go cut the grass. That was my main concern. But of course, I always head out there to check out the trees. Now, I'm surrounded with trees that I planted this year in nursery pots. So part of my experiment is to have some in nursery pots at the same age as what it's out at the tree farm, and to kind of compare their growth patterns and see if the extra work planting them in the ground is really worth what I'm going to do with these trees. And so I have the saplings that we put into the pots, and I've got some Fraser firs, some balsam firs, and I've got the Korean firs. Now the Korean firs are the easiest for me to identify because of the smaller ones. They don't grow as tall as quick, a slower growing tree. They do have a kind of a white pasty bottom underneath on the underneath side, and they're just a little bit more, again, compact in growth, whereas the Fraser and the balsam shoot up a lot faster. Now the Frasers are typically, I've been told by my son who works out at the tree farm there, Kruger Tree Farm, where I have my trees, a little bit more sturdier needles, sturdier branches, whereas the balsam a little bit weaker with the needles, a little bit thinner, and I like the dark green color of the balsam, whereas the Frasers are a little bit paler. Now, some of the issues I've been having with the trees are issues that I'm still learning about and unfamiliar with, which is why the experiment continues. So first we're going to go out and we're going to go back 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, in July of 2020, when this experiment all got started with Bonsai Acres, I had noticed some of my 45 trees, a couple of them, were turning brown. So let's head out back to the farm, back to 2020, and check that footage out first. We're at the tree farm. It's July 31st, and I got a couple brown trees this time. Haven't been here for a couple of weeks. And just since I've been here last, we got a couple trees that are just completely brown, and they're not even dry and brittle. Not yet. They're almost still soft. There's the other one, a super tall one in the end. So these are the Frasers. And the Christmas tree farm that I'm out at, the owner was talking about how Frasers are the one pine, or the fir, that tends to like a little bit of shade more than some of the others. And this row is in the shade. We got one down here that's kind of biting the dust as well. Not sure what's going on. You still see it's got some green life up here, but not much. It's all drooping and thinning out. I'm not sure why. So that's 3 trees out of 45 that are perishing. Still not horrible percentages for the first year of these trees. The red pines looking healthy. Most of them having multiple leaders up on the top. But they seem to be doing well. The white pines, again, seem to be enjoying life. This one right here, very robust. Got a lot of stuff going at the tip of that tree, soaking up all that energy. We'll do some trimming in the spring, for we just want these trees to be alive this first year of growth from the nursery we got them from. The Koreans are looking short and stubby, as I was told they would be growing slower. A lot more stuff on top that we'll be trimming at some point. This one's growing wild in 2 different directions. So again, we'll trim some in the fall. But even this last one looks completely different. It's got some height to it. The Canaans, combination of a Fraser and a balsam. Looking pretty good. It's one of the taller ones. It's got plenty of growth. Everything looks healthy. We've had a hot stretch here. Hot and dry after very humid and high dew points for a couple of weeks this summer, almost a month. Our dew points have been down for a little bit, so we'll see what these trees do. We need a little more rain in the next couple of days. That'll be super nice out here. And the balsams. Again, a completely different looking tree. Looking much thinner, so much smaller, more compact needles than the Fraser, the Canaan, and the Korean. But we have life. We have multiple different shapes to look at. And we just see next spring and next summer where they go. Super exciting. Back here at the house, I have some trees that are going through some similar issues as the brown. Now, was it a fungus, some kind of mildew or fungus that was creating some of the browning? And what was so interesting about the browning, and is to this day, some of them that have gone brown, is that softness I mentioned. They still seemed like supple plants and just totally fine, just a weird color. So there's my assumption that it's something moldy, mildew, fungus, something like that that created that damage. So I have lost a few trees to that brownness, whatever it may be. My Korean firs are looking really good here in the pot. The Korean firs out in the field are looking really good as well. So are the Canaans. Now the Canaan is a combination of the Fraser and the balsam. So I've got all my Koreans here, and the Koreans look good. They got some new young buds that shot out this year after the repot, and they're all growing pretty good. So I'm happy with the Koreans. Now the Fraser, I only have 4 here. And from the early episode, when I put these in the pots, you can check that episode out, I had 5 of each. I'm already down to 4. So one of these completely bit the dust right away this year before we even got a full season in the nursery pots. And here's one of the ones that almost went on the wayside as well. You can see I chopped off the death right here already. And here's some brown right here. Now this is finally getting dry and just kind of peels right off. It's not that soft feel as much anymore. But I can go ahead and come in here on this guy right here. I can just cut that one off. There's one back here. I'll cut that one off. So if there is any mold on here, we don't want any of the mold to spread to other parts of the tree. And so if it is a mold, I want to take care of that. So I'm taking away some of those branches. I also noticed in my pots at home, I have some of this green kind of mossy stuff. That's not the good kind of moss, and it's really hard to get out. So we want to make sure we get all of that out. It'll take a lot of the roots and the nutrients away from the trees. So part of my journey today will be to get rid of some of this moss. So I'm not sure if this is an Irish moss, but it's really got a hold in that top layer of the tree. So I might have to take my chopsticks, my scissors right here, my pruners, and just get rid of some of those roots. So I've got to do some of that before they get too deep in there and soak up all the moisture from these trees. So they're looking a little scraggly, the Frasers here. So again, I have a couple of brown spots on some of these. I can kind of cut some of those away so we don't spread any more of that to further parts of the tree. So those are the Frasers. Now the balsam, some of them are looking really good. So here, got some weeds growing in here. We got some new buds. You can see all of the new growth from the tips here. So everything's got some new growth. This one was also chopped off with some early browning up top here, or I might have just cut that at the beginning when I repotted. I don't recall. So that one's looking pretty good. This one's kind of tall and showing some good growth. This one's all over the place with growth. And this one is one of the ones that kind of struggled. Out of the 5, this one for some reason is not doing so well. So this one's got, again, this is more drying out. It seems like it's dried out. And I'm not sure what's going on with this tree. Some of the older needles here are drying up, and I'm getting those able to flake right off. But if there's like a brown section like right here, and this branch is dying, I don't want that fungus, if it is a fungus, to spread to the rest of the tree. So I'm not sure what's going on with this right here. But I have some viable buds right here, here, and here, down here. So if I just play it safe and cut that off, now hopefully that'll become the new leader of this tree. We're just going to leave that one there for now. So we have some issues. We have some brown stuff, and this is where I talk to my Minnesota Bonsai Society friends. If any of you have worked with firs in particular, these are all firs, you know, throw your comments below and let me know what experience you have with some of the mildew, the mold, the fungus, whatever those cases may be. One of the things I'm concerned about most with pines and firs is I think I'm overwatering my trees. In just a recent episode, I had lost my Siberian fir. You can check out my update show that I just produced and released, I think episode 219. And after I finished shooting that one, if you didn't watch the video all the way to the end, I took it out of the pot and I kind of faded to black and we had my close to the show. But then as I looked at the roots closely, which I should have shown on camera, my apologies, I'll try to do more of that in the future, because as some people have nicely commented to me, they've appreciated me showing some death versus life, because, you know, it doesn't always go our way. And I noticed the roots were rotted. It was definitely a case of root rot for that Siberian fir. So the roots just fell apart in my hands. I had no effort to kind of just pluck them away. And so I think I was overwatering the fir. I might be overwatering these. But down at the farm, I'm not overwatering them because it's Mother Nature. And they're in the ground. And so I'm not sure where the brown is coming from on the trees. But hey, we've got some grass to cut, so let's head back out to the farm. Just the other day, I was out there just 2 days ago, cutting the grass in the heat. Let's go check out what I did out at the farm, cutting the weeds and grass around the pine trees. It's officially summer at Bonsai Acres, the third week in June, and we're going to do some grass cutting today to get rid of these weeds and make sure we can see the trees and those weeds don't suck up too much of that water and nutrients. To start the grass cutting, I moved east to west, getting all the weeds where the trees are far enough gapped apart where I wouldn't be in too much mulch, and making sure you could see the trees. Again, moving east to west. Once I completed the east to west direction, there are some areas of the parcel of land where I could go between the trees north and south. So I headed north and south as best I could to get some of the remaining weeds. After the mower was put back in the van, I did take out the weed whip, although I think using my hands was working a lot better than the weed whip. Yeah, it's time for a new piece of equipment. So when I come out to the tree farm, I'm always walking the grounds and checking the trees, seeing where they're at. Why do we have some brown tips? Why do we have some tips that are kind of looking wilty? Not knowing what's in the ground, it's not in a pot. I didn't put soil in a pot to know exactly what's going on. This is totally Mother Nature as far as the water it's receiving. But also, we've wired some trees, we've clipped some trees now after the first year, and we're seeing what's happening. Now the white pines and the red pines, our North American style, are not really known for backbudding. And I've heard this. My general knowledge is that a white pine won't backbud, and I don't know that the red ones do very well either, unlike a Japanese white pine. So I'm looking at the trees after some trimming from last year and seeing what's going on, see if the energy has been pushed down lower in the tree to see if we can get any backbudding. And lo and behold, on some of the trees, including the white pines, I'm seeing some backbudding. So that's really good to see. Now, they don't look like really vigorous buds, but the fact that they've kind of backbudded near a whirl where I cut the tree before, that's a positive sign for keeping the tree shorter, compact, and seeing if we can make more of a smaller white pine bonsai. Because your white pines, you can have a tall, big one and might have some success, from what I've heard people say. But of course, they're going to be bigger, more majestic in size, because they just don't or aren't known to backbud. Let's take a peek at a couple of trees that I think are showing some backbudding, which, again, probably not predictable, probably not consistent, so a hard tree to work with. But let's check it out. So I'll try to get in here. and give you an explanation here of this white pine. So this white pine had a whorl of about 4 or 5. It's down to 3. This might be new growth just this year, which is below the whorl that comes up top here, way up here. So last year's growth, whorl, and so this right here is a branch from this year. I believe if I cut this branch off right down here, this becomes the new movement of this branch, and it's compact, shorter, and then we'll see if we can keep the tree shorter. But look below, right where I'm talking, right below my black finger there, my gloved finger, look right there in that little green right there. That green is a backbud. That's backbudding on the whorl of this pine tree. So if that takes off and grows the rest of this year, maybe in the fall, if I cut this 3 down to 2, that could take off. Maybe in 2 years, that could become the new leader of this tree, and these 3 all go off. And we have a more compact, thicker trunk into this main leader right here. Or this one again up here could be the leader. So there's one example of a backbud. It's at the whorl, most definitely, but it's a backbud. Here's another white pine, and you can see the whorl was right here. And I left 1, 2. I might have even left 1 because this looks like all new growth right here. If that's all new growth this year, it backbudded right there. And the only reason why I think that is this is definitely a backbud. Right there. It backbudded at this whorl. A white pine that's backbudding at a whorl. That's a good sign. That gives me hope that the white pines can actually do some good as a bonsai and won't just get really super tall. Exciting. So here's another example. I left this one and this one on. Those 2 I left on, from 5 down to 2. And look what's growing right there. A backbud. It's tiny. It's small. Maybe a little weak. But if it does good the rest of this summer, it's only June, this could become a new branch. We cut these 2 off, and I got this as a leader. It brings the tree way down, and we can bring growth down below and make a more compact tree. Just the fact that these are backbudding is a surprise to me, and I'm super excited about the possibilities. Because the white pines and the red pines grow really well in Minnesota, so they won't have to be cold framed. We could keep them outside if we have them in big enough pots and healed in. It makes it a little more flexible for us growing trees in the upper Midwest. Exciting news. So here we go, one more example of a couple of new pieces of growth. This whorl right here, where the tree's growing up, there's a branch back here, and a branch here. I must have left 3 on this one. There's a branch cut off right here. There's a branch cut off right there, and there. So right below those 2 is this new back growth right here, 1 inch plus, and already subdividing down below. There's also this branch right here. So 2 brand new branches. If I cut off this tree right here and make these all somehow the new leader, they might curve up and grow up as the new leader. And as you can see, here's last year's growth and here's this year's growth. This is this year's growth, everybody. Almost 8 inches, 10 inches. Last year's growth. Back budding. Fantastic. So I have one example of my red pine that I decandled this year. So the red pines candle a little bit more, I don't know if it's like a Japanese black pine, but they have 1 candle that shoots up, maybe 2. They don't whirl as much as a white pine in my experience so far. But I candle pruned here, 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 and here earlier this year. And if you look very closely right here, there is a little green bud right there that now formed. So we cut off the big major growth, and that'll take off that light green area. Here's 2 new secondary candles right there. So we got 2 of them right there. There and there. Over here, this stopped growing, but we got a push of 2 new candles down here at the base of this where the candle was. Right here where my finger is the chopped off candle. And there's 2 new candles growing right beside it, which will be shorter needles, shorter branches this year, if all goes well. And then this branch in my hand we can cut right off and keep these 2 as the new branches. This one I don't see any new buds yet, but we'll see what happens. But this is super exciting right here that I cut the candle off right here, and these 2 are shooting up. And this one was cut, and those 2 are shooting up right there. And we have this little tiny bud growing right there. We got plenty of growing season left. This red pine will be fun to watch over the next couple of years. My second example for the red pine is this guy right here. The whole tree doesn't show a lot of new buds like the one I just showed you, but I've got a couple of swells in here that look like could produce new buds. They're harder to see, it's better with the naked eye, but right there could be some new buds forming. We'll have to watch this one closely as well. This tip has the same thing. Is that a swirl to the lower left right there? Right there. Right in the center of your screen, is that a swelled up area? We go to another branch. Couple of swelled up areas we'll have to see. Hard to see on camera. I totally appreciate that. A lot of this little moss here growing in these pots. Got to make sure I get all those out. So now last fall, the fall of 2021, I was out there and I wired some of the trees that you saw in the 2020 portion in July. I put some wire around some of the white and red pines and a couple of the Frasers and the balsam trees. Now, they had been in there since last fall, and this year they're taking off. That's the 3rd year in the ground, and so they really took off, and so there's a lot of wire that was starting to cut in pretty bad. So let's go take a look back out at the farm. I'll show you the result of wire cutting into pines, and we'll have a little discussion about that out at the farm. On a couple of the trees out at the farm, I have put some wire on. I put this wire on last fall, the fall of 21. And we're in June in 22, and some of the wire is biting in pretty amazingly, so we're going to take some off today. Some of the wire has bitten in really. In the fall of 21, we put some wire on some of the trees. As you can see here, this one's not biting in too bad. I was out here a little bit earlier today, and the wire was biting in pretty good. I'll show you the results of taking off some of that wire earlier. We're going to leave this one on for a little bit longer. Let's go check out the other ones. So here's the bottom of one of the trees that had a double wire on, and you can see the scars at the very bottom, about 1 or 2 inches up. As you come up the tree, you can see some wire marks. Now with pines typically, with age and the nature of the bark in the end, those will heal, and we don't quite get as overly concerned about the wire scars. But these white pines were growing so fast this year that I didn't get these off quite in time to avoid some of the deeper scars. But again, most of this will go away in time. And hopefully they'll keep some of their shape. Got a little bit of bend to that tree right there. One of the other trees with the scars, you can see right here. Down in here. Pretty deep scar in this one. In time, hopefully that'll heal, and we'll have a nice looking tree. It'll give it some character. I could spend hours out at the tree farm, but there are things to do at home. There's a basketball game to go see, and tonight, going out for anniversary dinner, so a lot to do. So, the trees are looking good. We're seeing some back budding. We're seeing some possible new viable buds pushing out on the reds. The other trees are looking really good. Not a lot of brown, additional brown tips on the trees, just a couple sparse ones today. So very exciting day out at the tree farm. So that'll wrap it up for here. We'll see what we got going on back home. Back here at home, I'm still plucking away at all of this moss. This moss was digging deep into these pots, and it's taken a little bit of work. Some of the clumps have taken out a lot of dirt, but again, I don't want all this moss to get totally overtaking these pots. It's going to use up all of the nutrients and the any fertilizer I'm putting on these. These are going to grow like, well, weeds and get in the way of the growth, I would suspect, of the pines in the nursery pots. So I'll keep plucking away at that, but you're not going to want to watch me pluck this Irish moss, if that's the kind of moss it actually is. But there's a lot of it to go, so I have some work cut out for me. So there you have it. Bonsai Acres is coming along. We've wired some trees. We got the grass cut this time around. We've got some brown stuff going on. We don't know what that is. We're still investigating, so I look forward to any comments people might have for me, and as I continue this journey to learn about these pine trees, these fir trees, and how their growth patterns are. So looking forward to the next trip out there. When I go out to Bonsai Acres, you can be assured that I'll probably take you along with me. Until then, hey, take care of you, take care of all your bonsai, and we'll catch you on the next one.